Bringing you live from Davos, Switzerland, you're watching AWANI Tonight's special coverage, World Economic Forum 2025, with me, Ashwad Ismail and Najib Aroff. Now, what dominates WEF agenda? That's a question mark. I would simplify it. It is 3 T's and artificial intelligence. Right. What are the 3 T's? 1, trade, Trump, tariff and artificial intelligence dominate WEF agenda, and the question here, how do we respond and navigate this situation?
And it's not just that, Ashwad. ASEAN topic took a center stage as well at World Economic Forum 2025, and as we all know, and we can see, the World Economic Forum is seen as a Eurocentric forum. Yeah. And of course, this year is quite different because we have ASEAN topic took a center stage. And naturally, we expect this kind of question to be asked to the delegates from Southeast Asia and also ASEAN countries. The questions such as, will ASEAN become the EU 2.0 or European Union 2.0, where we know ASEAN is totally different from EU. We are fostering collaboration rather than political as compared to EU. And also they ask us about what are we going to do in regards to the US and China dynamics relationship.
And for the 7th president, Donald Trump is going to speak soon, in which he will be speaking here at WEF. And don't forget to tune in at 12 midnight Malaysian time for his first, I would say, international address at WEF. So, but prior to this particular international address, Najib, I think he has made some sort of remark.
Correct. This is very interesting because less than a week into his second term as US president, Donald Trump issued a strong warning to Russia. In a post on social media, he called out Russian President Vladimir Putin directly, urging him to end the nearly 3-year-old war against Ukraine. And at the same time, Trump's message was very clear. If Russia didn't work towards a peaceful settlement, and the United States would impose severe sanctions and tariffs on Russian imports. And he also emphasized that the US would not stand by while the conflict continued to harm Ukraine, also destabilize the region. And this statement as well marked one of the Trump's first major foreign policy move as president, showing his willingness to take a tough stance.
And several hours ago, United Nations Chief Antonio Guterres again returned to one of his most frequent appeals, I would say, for the world to do more to fight global warming. And this appeal is, to me, indeed significant after Trump's promises, drill, baby, drill. So, well, that remark somehow have rattled a world's commitment to reduce carbon emission.
Yeah. That is one of the topics about geopolitical tension and also geostrategic focus at World Economic Forums, but also sustainability is one of the major focus here in Davos, Switzerland, where before this, we'll talk about climate change, and Trump 1.0 has said that climate change is a hoax. Yeah. And also he pulled US from the Paris Agreement. That is a big thing. And also the main question, the major question, will it drag or hinder the effort at the Paris Agreement? This is the thing we'll ask to a lot of countries' leaders, especially from Southeast Asia, and also our Prime Minister, Dato' Sri Anwar Ibrahim. Let's take a look and also listen to what he has to say about this.
Doesn't matter whether it's the Paris Accord or international recognition. We have to take measures to save our country and our society. And if it requires us to observe strictly the understanding which is tied to the Paris Agreement, we have to honor. And I think it is not a matter of honoring that. We are working at a faster pace. Yeah. That's why we have the ASEAN Energy Grid. It's a faster pace than what was projected earlier. And if we can reach that in the next few years, then of course it's more economic, it's cheaper energy, but it meets the requirements of the Paris Accord. So it doesn't matter whether, well, it does matter to the world, unfortunately, that we need countries, rich countries, industrial countries, that cost most of the burden to undertake some of these measures. What they promised, they have not honored. But we can go on complaining, but we have to start doing it. So you ask...
So Ashwad, what do you think about what are the strategies, do you think, in terms of sustainability?
Well, we have spoken to the Prime Minister, and of course, this kind of question is actually very important in terms of question of how do we stand resolute in terms of weathering the storm. And in my 14 minutes Davos cast with Prime Minister Anwar, which we had in AWANI 745, AWANI 745, and of course Prime Minister as the chair of ASEAN has said Malaysia is applying so-called the adaptive strategy to ensure Malaysia remains adaptive to the evolving global order while prioritizing sustainable, inclusive and just growth. What would that be, this particular adaptive strategy? It consists of three major elements in which first, Malaysia will remain dedicated to fostering shared growth, regional cooperation and maintain openness. Second, pragmatic approach in engaging both the United States and of course China. And third, position Malaysia as a center of competitive trade, finance and tech. And of course, and these three major important elements in order for us to withstand the changes throughout around us, especially the region of ASEAN.
Right. Let's listen, I think, to the snippets of the interview that we had just now during AWANI 745.
Dia urusan perdagangan. Jadi isu geopolitik dari segi lain, walaupun penting. Kalau baca kenyataan Trump, dia ada juga pandangan yang tegas dalam hal lain yang tidak semestinya serasi dengan pandangan dunia keseluruhannya. Tetapi dia nampaknya memusatkan keutamaan kepada isu dagang. Jadi bukan soal istilah bayar itu mungkin sedikit mengelirukan. Dagang, kalau ada kepentingan umpamanya di Malaysia, kita ada semiconductor. 26% keperluan Amerika itu importnya dari Malaysia. Kalau dia nak hentikan, ada risikonya.
Tapi dia juga menggunakan tarif sebagai senjata utama untuk mengheret negara-negara untuk kembali ke meja rundingan.
Ya, kalau tarif itu kita, sebab itu saya katakan strategi Malaysia apa? Ia membuka ruang perdagangan dan jaringan yang lebih luas. Sebab itu kita masuk BRICS. Kadang kita perkukuh dalam 2 tahun ini, tengok kita punya lonjakan dengan negara China, malah dengan Rusia dan dengan Eropah. Itu lebih besar supaya andai kata ada tekanan baru, ia lebih lunak, berbeda dari tidak melakukan apa-apa perubahan.
Now, the biggest debate and also discussion right here is about Donald Trump 2.0. He's sworn in to the White House as the 47th US president. And of course, we have the early session of the early thoughts of his presidency 2.0. And of course, Trump presidency has caused a lot of anxieties in that sense throughout the world. But people were also talking about uncertainties that we followed through after he laid out and also presented his policies, which we haven't heard yet in terms of the details of the policies. And also, at the same time, during one of the sessions, this is very important and very interesting because the speakers and also panelists were telling us and saying that if you look closely based on his speech and his announcement from various platforms, including his social media, we could actually get a sense of and a gist basically of what kind of policies that he's going to introduce as a president.
Let's listen to these two particular important voices that I would say coming from a very prominent analyst.
Well, anybody whose crystal ball is clear probably hasn't understood the problem, so it's hazy. But I would say if you try to take Trump seriously, but not literally, and you take the time to watch his antics and watch the rallies and watch the tweets and read between the lines, you can get some pretty good clues about what's likely to happen. So I would predict that 6 months from now, the Ukraine war will be over. You asked about China. I think China will be part of the deal. I think that it'll settle roughly at the current line of division, which is where it will have settled a year ago or the year ago or the year ago. Trump's repeated line about this is endless, useless killing. Each year, Ukraine is in a worse position than it was the year before. This is set for a deal if there were a deal maker. And he's looking at it, and I think that's what I would suspect that'll be a big piece of it. Indeed, if you look at his inaugural speech and the press conference, he wants to be not only a deal maker, but an international deal maker who's a peacemaker.
But I do think the U.S.-China relationship is probably the one that is most problematic to get a deal. I think that we are heading towards a trade war and towards a more strategic decoupling of the economies. One reason for that is because Trump isn't just focusing on tariffs on China, but he's also focusing on third countries where there are pass-throughs to the U.S. The only way the Chinese economy is succeeding right now is through their $1 trillion export surplus. And so you see Trump and his team focusing a lot on Mexico and India and Vietnam. The other conversations they're having bilaterally, one of the top priorities is squeeze China coming in. That's very hard for China to respond to. You've already seen Sheinbaum in Mexico. That's been her top priority. Before she meets with them, we've got a Mexico plan that is going to take the Chinese out. Right? So I think that makes it much harder. And I also think China's complicated. And Graham knows this well. I mean, the only reason we've stabilized U.S.-China relations in the last year and a half is because there are 25 high-level cabinet-to-cabinet bilats, channels that have been set up. There's an enormous amount of effort put into the relationship. So I agree with Allison that Trump has an orientation to meet with Xi and have a good meeting and, you know, flatter him a little bit and say, come on, let's get to a deal. But getting to a deal with China will require a level of execution, implementation that's far more complicated across the Trump administration, not to mention some support from the GOP and Congress. We're nowhere close to that. So I actually think that in the coming months, we are heading to a dramatic shift.
As I mentioned, ASEAN is one of the main focus in World Economic Forum right here in Davos, Switzerland, and our delegation led by our Prime Minister, Dr. Sri Anwar Ibrahim, brought about the narrative of ASEAN in terms of its agility and also stability, neutrality, and also centrality of ASEAN. And however, one of the questions remains in terms of how do we mold ASEAN into the future and moving forward in terms of having it detached to the Western style of development and also cooperation.
How to rewrite ASEAN, that is the most major question that has been discussed all this while. I think let's listen to the most important voices which is outside ASEAN, still neighboring country of ASEAN, from Bangladesh, His Excellency Dr. Muhammad Yunus, the advisor to the interim government of Bangladesh. It's a very important point.
What kind of future that we see for ourselves as a region, as a country? Do we follow the same footsteps that the West has done as a success and same development paradigm that we have learned? And I'm always saying, no, that's not the way we should do. We should create our own way of what we see as a development, as a future of our countries, and so on. One of the things we said, all the issues and definitions and the concepts that we have adopted from the Western way of looking at it, can be redesigned. And that's one of the things is the whole banking system, whether banking system should remain connected with the people with money. Can it be redesigned to bring it to people who don't have money, starting with them? And that's what the changes in the microcredit came as a change for that, addressing that, challenging the whole banking system. Banking system has to be redesigned. And that led to us another issue which we want to share with ASEAN. As a part of ASEAN, we will have to work together to make a different kind of society that we have right now, following the same kind of old footsteps that we do. Avoid the whole wealth concentration issue completely, right from the beginning. Because otherwise, if you follow the same step, we go back to the same thing with all the concentration of wealth.
And of course, it's so easy for us to talk about ASEAN as we are a country within ASEAN, and Bangladesh is a country that wanted to join ASEAN. But also, we listen to all the voices outside ASEAN. For instance, the chairman of MasterCard, she mentioned about how ASEAN has a huge potential due to its huge population, almost 700 million, and its digitalization and digital adoption. The rate is very high in ASEAN, and this will propel further ASEAN and to become some sort of superpower in the future. Let's listen to what she has to say about ASEAN.
Well, first, I think it's just important to underscore the economic vitality and the heterogeneity of the region. And, you know, the entrepreneurship, the innovation that is there throughout the region It is the fastest growing internet market in the world. Wow. And so a company like MasterCard is a regional hub in Singapore, has operations throughout the region. It's creating cybersecurity training programs, digital economy, and really aimed at digital expansion for financial inclusion, small and medium-sized enterprise, very important in the region. And so I think the opportunities are enormous. And it's also a region that is managing the complexity of the geopolitical environment in which it is operating. And I think thus far, being very hospitable to the United States investment, also to Chinese, and managing that complexity. You see great Japanese influence in the region, increasingly trusted and extensive. So the dynamism, I think, is very important for the world.
Speaking of ASEAN, we cannot run away from two major important elements of future. Number one is digitalization. Number two is artificial intelligence. How do we go about these two major important elements? And we have a Digital Economy Framework Agreement, DEFA, and indeed, it is somehow one of its kind in the world, and other regions could replicate it, Najib. But however, while we are navigating artificial intelligence, and for ASEAN, Malaysia as the chairman, committed to push it on a faster pace. Now the question here, what does it mean when it comes to faster pace? We have digitalization that needs to be concluded by end of this year, which is DEFA. At the same time, we have artificial intelligence, AI. And it means embracing the wave of AI in health services, blockchains, and of course, education. We hope that we can actually fasten the whole process of changing the education system in this region, education system in Malaysia as well. And at the larger scale, if you take, for example, United States of America, their approach toward AI of innovation first, then applying so-called regulation or applying appropriate guardrails, I would say. So this is the question here for Malaysia and ASEAN to ponder, which one comes first? Are we going to go on guardrails first and innovation second? Or it's not a zero-sum game? So that's the question for all of us to ponder. I'm Ashwad Ismail and Najib Aroff, signing off for AWANI Tonight, special coverage of WEF 25 here in Davos, Switzerland. Thank you for watching. Good night.